Last year, GSCO and SCI entered into a very special partnership. And that partnership has resulted in the creation of a new award, the Pantheon Award. It is singularly the most quantifiable big game hunting award in existence today. It's something that we have done with SCI, and I would like to ask Chris Emery and Mike Burrell, SCI Vice President, and Chris, of course, from the SCI Awards Program, to also come forward with us. And we will introduce this year's winners, but please roll the video first. Thank you.
At our 2013 convention, Grand Slam Club Ovis and Safari Club International introduced for the first time the Pantheon Award. Now, this is more than an award, and individuals will be inducted into the Pantheon each year. Well, more about that later. First, just what is the Pantheon? Many realize that it's an ancient structure in Rome, Italy. The original building was constructed some 2,000 years ago during the days of the Roman Empire and was rebuilt by Emperor Hadrian in about 126 AD. It's been in continuous use ever since. From the 7th century until today, the Pantheon's been used as a Roman Catholic church dedicated to St. Mary and the martyrs. So how was the Pantheon chosen as the name for the GSCO and SCI combined award? The dictionary gives 4 different definitions for the word Pantheon. One, of course, is temple. But the last listed definition is subtle and a perfect fit for this award: a group of important people. Tonight and in years to follow, this definition will certainly become front and center in the big game hunting world. The idea for this award was conceived by GSCO, and the original idea was to build an award around GSCO's family of slams. As time went on, the concept grew, and it became a totally inclusive worldwide big game hunting award. GSCO has stringent requirements and documentation procedures in place for all of its awards. SCI likewise has similar stringent requirements for its award platforms. GSCO and SCI awards are definitely the most desirable in the industry, so it was a natural next move for the two organizations to join forces in the implementation of this award. SCI readily entered into a cooperative agreement concerning this award for the future. The criteria for the Pantheon are easily defined, but extremely difficult to ultimately accomplish. It takes a lifetime to meet all the requirements for being inducted into the Pantheon. Concerning GSCO's award family, an individual must reach the highest levels. One must have a Grand Slam of North American Wild Sheep, an Ovis World Slam Super 30 of the world's mountain sheep, a Capra World Slam Super 30 of the world's wild goats, and the Super Slam of 29 North American big game. But even when one has reached this level, there is much more required for the Pantheon. SCI's top objective award is the World Conservation and Hunting Award, which was developed in 2005. The requirements for this SCI award are that members must achieve all SCI Grand Slams and reach the diamond level of practically all inner circles. This necessarily dictates that one has traveled to all the huntable continents and taken all the major big game of the world. That means one has reached the very difficult to achieve diamond level of animals of Africa, which includes the big cats, the big five, the spiral-horned antelopes, gazelles, pygmy antelopes, and a whole lot more. Now you should be getting the picture of just how difficult the criteria for the Pantheon really are. There are subjective awards in the big game hunting industry with selection committees, emotions, and personalities involved, and that's just fine. However, GSCO and SCI with their award platforms have ensured that the Pantheon is a totally objective award, based solely on an individual's documented achievements. When you learn momentarily that only 2 individuals have qualified to be inducted into the Pantheon for this year, and they join only 2 others from 2013, surely you realize the Pantheon is the most prestigious quantifiable big game hunting award in the world. The Master Pantheon bronze is on permanent display at the GSCO offices and museum, and has been displayed this week as well as being on stage here tonight. The names of the inductees will be added to the base each year. GSCO contacted world-renowned artist and great supporter Dallin Lamson with a challenging request. We commissioned him to create with one of his trademark drawings the Pantheon design, with a bronze to be created from that concept art. During the creation process, Dallin mentioned that his famous artist father Hayden Lamson was not only a painter but a sculptor as well. In a very short time, the whole concept came together, and you see the result here. Additional bronze castings will also be available for those who've been inducted into the Pantheon. We know you understand the base is a replica of the Pantheon temple in Rome. Rising above that is an obelisk, and four sides are adorned with Hayden's beautifully sculpted big game bust. Each side represents a different part of the criteria for induction into the Pantheon. The front sides feature four African animals, representing that game-rich continent, and four North American big game animals, representing the Super Slam and Grand Slam. The back sides of the obelisk have four representative rams of the Ovis World Slam Super 30 and four representative animals of the Capra World Slam Super 30. And finally, at the top of the obelisk is a world globe encircled by the name Pantheon. Naturally, the globe represents the need one would have to travel to all four corners in pursuit of those trophies necessary for the Pantheon. Now to the 2014 inductees. As has been mentioned already, there are only two people who have qualified for induction into the Pantheon this year. We'd like to invite them to make their way to the stage as soon as their names are called. The 2014 inductees are Rex Baker of Georgia and Dennis Campbell of Alabama. It's hard to even begin the recognition narrative for Rex Baker. For all practical purposes, he has always specialized in mountain hunting, so we begin with his Grand Slam number 253. He took his first ram, which was a stone, in 1976 in British Columbia. He followed in 1977 with a doll, and then a Baja Desert later that year. In keeping with Rex's persistence, in 1978 he completed that Grand Slam with a bighorn from BC. Rex has always been a conservationist, and he began early with Safari Club International at both the chapter and national levels. He served early on as a regional representative. He supported the SCI record book and the awards programs that began later. We'll tell you more about his involvement with SCI later, but getting back to his mountain hunting, he really had the bug as he was hunting the mountains of North America as well as internationally. Even though the Ovis World Slam was not part of the hunting world until 1997, Rex had actually completed what would become known as the Ovis Slam as early as 1980. This was made possible by not only his North American sheep, but in 1978 he had an extremely successful hunt in Iran, taking both Armenian and Esfahan mouflon, Kerman sheep, red sheep, and Transcaspian urial. In 1979, he was one of the very earliest people to hunt the Dagestan Eastern Tur, and we found an interesting photo from that hunt showing Rex with the late Carlo Caldisi. It was actually a Gobi Argali from Mongolia in 1980 that completed Rex's first Ovis World Slam. Rex has a neat way of keeping up with his Ovis trophies, and he's only one or two sheep away from what he likes to term his sixth Ovis World Slam. Since it takes 12, that would mean 6 times 12 or 72 different sheep. So you get a bit of a picture of how determined a mountain hunter Rex is. The numerous photos illustrate that as well. Contained within those trophies is his Ovis Super 30, and he got the 30th trophy for that milestone in 2006. He's working hard to become one of only a handful of hunters to go to the Ovis Super 40, and we believe he'll make that soon. Moving on to the Capra World Slam, Rex also completed that milestone before it had a name. When GSCO instituted the Capra Slam in 2001, Rex had already taken his 12th Capra animal in 1998. With this new milestone, he got pretty busy with the goats of the world. By 2009, he was all the way up to 30 on the list. Rex has all the toughest to get goats, including the Turs, and he even went back to Nepal for his second trip in 2009 to get the tar that he didn't get on his first trip back in 1979. By the way, he even did a test trekking trip up toward Mount Everest on that visit. No, he didn't make it to the top, but he sure got a feel for what it would be like to try. We've now mentioned all the GSCO requirements to be inducted into the Pantheon except the Super Slam. Rex has hunted North America extensively, stretching into 5 decades. From Rex's application, it appears a mule deer and a Thule elk from 2000 were the last 2 trophies for the Super Slam, which was not introduced by GSCO until 2009. Yep, Rex completed all GSCO slams except the Grand Slam before they were even introduced. He likes goals, but it's obvious that hunting is his #1 priority. Speaking of goals, though, Rex has won some of the world's most important awards, including SCI's International Hunting Award in 2002 and also the coveted 2002 Weatherby Award. He was the recipient of the Ovis in 2007, and Rex is only one of 3 Americans to receive the top European mountain award known as the Culminam Magister. With all of these awards, you should realize a person has to hunt every continent, and we've not even mentioned Africa, or the SCI requirement for induction into the Pantheon, the World Conservation and Hunting Award. Even though Rex qualified for that SCI award several years ago, it was only in 2013 that he got the final paperwork done. He'll be receiving that award at the SCI convention next week. He qualified for the World Hunting Award ring way back in 2001. We'll now finish up with Africa, and you've seen and will be seeing some of Rex's choice photos from around the world as well as that continent. Matter of fact, Rex has taken well over 300 big game species from around the world and continues to hunt multiple trips every year. Just like mountain hunting, Rex's trophies from Africa date back to the 1970s, so he's been hunting that continent into 5 decades as well. We'd be remiss concerning Africa to not finish up with one of its few mountain animals, the Barbary sheep, or Aldad, that Rex took in Chad in 2003. We could talk about Rex Baker for the rest of the evening, but hopefully you've understood a little about this amazing hunter's career. Now we move on to the second person to be inducted into the Pantheon tonight. Dennis Campbell began hunting with his father as a boy and took his first white-tailed deer at age 12. He has continued to passionately hunt whitetails in Alabama every season to this very day. His first big game hunt outside Alabama was the year after his graduation from pharmacy school. In 1977, he went to Wyoming and took a 4x4 elk that he says is still one of his favorite trophies because of his memories of the hunt that he shared with his father. That began a 37-year career of hunting for Dennis. Dennis got sheep fever while on a British Columbia moose and caribou hunt in 1981 when he saw a group of stone rams. 1982 found him back in BC after stone sheep and mountain goats. He continued to hunt North American big game, and while specializing in wild sheep, was also after all the other North American big game animals as well. He completed his Grand Slam number 613 with a desert sheep from South Baja, Mexico in January 1995. Dennis ventured to the African continent in 1996 for a plains game hunt in Zimbabwe. He even got a leopard there. The hunt was not very successful otherwise, and for that reason and the fact that he had mountain hunting fever, he put off returning to Africa for several years. Dennis's first trip outside North America was an unsuccessful snow sheep hunt in Russia in 1993 with a group that included the late Jim Conklin, and Dennis was partnered with John Cotan. The world's mountains continued to call him, and in 1996 he took his first non-North American Ovis trophy, a Hungai Argali from Mongolia. He returned to Mongolia in 1997 and got the Altai Argali and Gobi Ibex. There were other hunts, and he completed his Ovis World Slam in January 1998 with an Armenian Mouflon and red sheep taken in West Texas with Rowdy McBride. GSCO introduced the Capra World Slam to the hunting world in 2001. Well, Dennis had to get pretty busy after the Capra trophies, but he did complete his Capra World Slam in November 2003 with a whirlwind hunt in Spain. Dennis continued to hunt North America, Europe, and Asia for not only Ovis and Capra trophies, but anything else the continents had to offer. Finally, in 2006, he ventured to South Africa for a very successful plains game trip. He darted a white rhino on that trip and took a South African lion that got him a bit closer to the Big Five. Frankly, things began to be a bit of a blur after that, as there were multiple trips every year and Dennis got around to hunting all the huntable continents. He was heavily invested in the SCI World Hunting Awards and continued to rack up Grand Slams and inner circles. He reached the SCI World Hunting Award ring status in 2010, and finally SCI's Ultimate Objective Award, the World Conservation and Hunting Award, in 2012. He was presented that award at SCI's 2013 convention. 1 month from now, Dennis will become only the third American to receive the Culminam Magister Award, behind Bob Spiegel and Rex Baker. That, of course, is the top mountain hunter award for Europe. Dennis completed his Super Slam only a few months after GSCO introduced that new milestone. He hunted in Nevada in January 2010 to get his cougar, the only one of the 29 required trophies that he didn't have. His North American hunting spans well over 5 decades. Dennis reached the Ovis World Slam Super 30 level in 2005, so that should be some indication of how obsessed he was with the wild mountain sheep of the world. He got to a second Grand Slam in 2010, and with 2 more desert sheep, could get to 4 Grand Slams. Again, mountain sheep have certainly been a big part of his life. Most people consider the Capra trophies of the world to be the most difficult, and that probably proved to be true with Dennis. After completing the Capra Super 20, he continued on, and as 2013 rolled around, he needed only 1 more to get to the Super 30, and that was the only trophy that stood between him and the Pantheon. He had a hunt booked for a chartreuse chamois in October, but a permit problem and even hip surgery took that chance away, and it looked like he wouldn't be inducted into the Pantheon in 2014. However, 4 weeks after the hip surgery, a permit became available, and in mid-December 2013, he took the chartreuse chamois in France to reach not only the Capra World Slam Super 30, but complete all the requirements for induction into the Pantheon. That concludes the profiles of this year's Pantheon inductees. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with us in giving Rex and Dennis a huge round of applause.